Over the next few years, EU rules like the Cyber Resilience Act and NIS2 will quietly redefine what acceptable software looks like. In this module, we'll turn those mandates into concrete decisions that shape your roadmap, your contracts, and even your personal accountability. For a long time, security was treated as optional. Vendors shipped as-is software, self-regulated, and pushed most risk onto buyers. That world is disappearing. CISA, the UK, and the EU are moving us into a mandatory era. Vendors are explicitly liable, secure by design is a legal obligation, and weak security can shut you out of key markets. Security is no longer a feature upgrade. It's now a baseline expectation with accelerating compliance deadlines. You can think of the EU landscape as one connected machine. The Cyber Resilience Act focuses on how secure your digital products are by design and by default. NIS2 focuses on who you are in the ecosystem and how you manage your own and your supplier's security and incident response. Product liability rules then determine what happens when things go wrong and users are harmed. Together, these three lenses set the security bar you must meet if you want to access and keep EU digital customers. The Cyber Resilience Act uses a simple idea. If it connects, it's probably in scope. It covers the full ecosystem of products with digital elements, from IoT devices and embedded firmware to mobile apps, operating systems, and the cloud services they rely on. And responsibility is shared. Manufacturers, importers, and distributors all carry obligations and legal exposure. Regulators are converging on a clear engineering mandate. First, products must be secure by default. No weak starter settings, minimized attack surface, and safe configurations out of the box. Second, development itself must be secure, with risks assessed and mitigated before and during coding. Third, vulnerability handling has to be structured and transparent, with SBOMs and coordinated disclosure. And finally, you're expected to provide lifecycle support, including timely security updates for many years, not just at launch. CA marking is essentially your gate pass into the EU market. It confirms that your product meets essential requirements, including security, under laws like the Cyber Resilience Act. Most products can rely on self-assessment, but important or critical ones require an independent review. The business takeaway is blunt. Without a valid CE mark, you simply cannot sell in the EU. NIS2 turns supply chain security into a shared legal obligation. Critical entities like banks or energy providers must actively vet the security of their cloud vendors, managed service providers, and software suppliers. The scope is much broader than before. SaaS, hosting, and data center partners are all in play. If a supplier is weak, regulators will increasingly treat that as your problem. And when something does go wrong, NIS2 expects rapid incident reporting, typically within 24 hours. Product liability is the hammer that turns secure by design from guidance into consequences. Under strict liability, a manufacturer can be held responsible for harm even without proving negligence. Regulators are increasingly treating exploitable vulnerabilities as product defects, not just bugs. And damages now extend beyond physical harm to include data loss, corruption, and service disruption. In practice, security flaws can translate directly into legal, financial, and reputational exposure. You can view the regulatory timeline as your engineering transformation window. Entry into force means the legal clock has started, even if penalties still feel distant. The standards work that follows will define how auditors, buyers, and insurers judge you. By the live reporting date, your incident detection, logging, and CSCIRT processes must actually work in practice. Full enforcement is when insecure products shift from being a compliance nuisance to a direct revenue and market access risk. Once your product has an actively exploited vulnerability, the clock starts. You notify a single reporting platform, which then relays information to your national CSCIRT and to ENISA within 24 hours as an early warning. That early signal isn't a full root cause analysis. It's enough to enable coordination and situational awareness. Within 72 hours, a more complete report feeds into the shared European vulnerability database, supporting a broader systemic response. For many organizations, the most serious threat isn't just a multi-million euro fine. It's being forced to pull products from the market, facing open-ended lawsuits, and watching customer trust disappear almost overnight. The real question is, How resilient is your business to that kind of shock? An SBOM is essentially an X-ray of your software. Every open source library, every third-party module, every firmware component. Regulators now view this level of transparency as non-negotiable. It must be machine-readable, standardized, and kept current, so that when new vulnerabilities appear, you can quickly answer one question: where are we exposed and what needs fixing first? Across the US, UK, and EU, you're no longer dealing with three unrelated regimes. They're converging on a shared expectation. Software makers are explicitly responsible for security outcomes, not just customers' configurations. That means designing secure by default architectures, being able to prove you've done the work, and supporting products over their lifecycle. If you align once to that common core, manufacturer responsibility, plus transparency artifacts like SBOMs, you can usually address regional nuances with smaller, localized adjustments. Over the next 12 months, treat Secure by Design as a leadership initiative, not a side project. First, map your exposure. Which products and services would regulators or customers label critical or important? Second, perform a focused gap analysis of your SDLC against CRA, NIS2, CISA, and UK security essentials. Third, tighten governance by updating vendor contracts and security clauses. Finally, operationalize the changes. Automate SBOM generation and establish clear vulnerability and incident reporting channels. Security is now your license to operate. Regulators, customers, and insurers are converging on one expectation: prove secure by design or lose access to markets. The decision point is straightforward. Will you be ready before your competitors are?